Hi Taurus, and welcome to your January 2024 horoscope. I hope December was not too intense for you. January is an interesting month. In January, we have a big event with Pluto. Pluto enters Aquarius and enters a new house for you. We'll get into what this exactly means for you a bit later in the forecast. And we also have quite a continuous aspect during this month, which is a sextile between Saturn and Jupiter. Because they are in an earth and a water sign, I do think that January will be quite I don't want to say easygoing month, but a month grounded in reality. A month grounded in our physical needs, focusing on what we need to survive and our emotional needs as well. On January 1st, we have Venus in your 8th house squaring Saturn in your 11th house. You have really been nurturing your intimate relationships in the last little while, but you've also had a lot of responsibilities towards your goals and your long-term vision for yourself. And at the beginning of the month, these two may be at odds with each other. And how this might manifest is that, for example, your partner wants you to spend more time with them, spend more energy on them. But at the same time, your responsibilities are also calling for your time and energy. It's, of course, possible to strike a balance between the two. On January 4th, Mars enters Capricorn and your 9th house. So you are going to be expressing a lot of your willpower and your attention towards your belief systems, towards perhaps a new educational program, perhaps maybe some travel as well. One of the main effects this will have on you is expanding your belief system and your view of the world. And it's in this 9th house that you're also going to experience the new moon on January 11th. So it's a new moon in Capricorn. Even though Pluto is quite far, it's about 9 degrees away, it is still in the same house. So I would consider it that it's still part of the conversation during this new moon. We also have another interesting aspect during this new moon, and that is the conversation between Mars, Saturn, and Uranus. Mars is in your 9th house, Saturn in your 11th, and Uranus in your 1st. And even though they're aspecting with fairly easy aspects, as you could say, sextile and trine, you want to make sure that you don't, in a way, fall asleep from these opportunities. They are highlighting the 8th, 11th, and 1st house, meaning that you are being asked to set boundaries. You are being asked to set boundaries with your relationships and with your network. They are all asking for your time and for your attention, and you need to make sure that you are giving the time to those that you really value in your life. It might not be a very huge eruption because, again, they're quite easy aspects, a sextile and a trine. So just make sure that you're keeping your ears and eyes wide open on this day so that you don't miss any opportunities or any learning points coming your way. On January 14th, Venus in your 8th house is sextiling the South Node in your 6th house. The South Node has been in your 6th house since November 2023. And being in your 6th house since November, it's been asking you to take a look at all of the ways you tend to people please in your day-to-day work and in your routine. And it could be a beautiful connection that you're making with another human being that enlightens you about these areas. It might be somebody in your partnership that makes you aware that actually you are doing things in your day-to-day work, in your habits, perhaps your gym routine, or perhaps your diet, where you realize that it's not coming truly from yourself, but rather from this tendency of not wanting to disrupt others or to annoy others. Venus continues to travel through your 8th house, and on January 19th, it squares Neptune in your 11th. Because a square is a bit more of a difficult aspect, an aspect that might come out of nowhere and slap us right in the face, it might not be so easy to miss this day. Because it's with the planet Neptune in your 11th house, you might be facing some illusions with your network. Perhaps you are a bit disillusioned about your friends and your network of people and how they might actually help you get to where you want to go, help you achieve your goals, and that might not actually be true. So be mindful on this day that everything that you hear, everything that you think, that you take it with a grain of salt and give it a bit of time to sink in, to think about it before you act on anything. And just like that, we get to the big event of the month, which is happening on January 20th. And this is the conjunction between the Sun and Pluto. So on January 20th, they conjunct at literally the last degree of Capricorn. And just a couple of hours later, the Sun enters Aquarius. And on the next day, on the 21st, Pluto also enters Aquarius. There's a lot happening on these 2 days, so let's break them down one by one. Let's start with the Sun and the Sun entering your 10th house. So for the next month, from the 20th onwards, you are going to have a lot of vitality and energy in your career. And because you're starting it off with a close conjunction to Pluto, you might be really stepping into your power in your career and establishing yourself in a more authoritative way. And then we have Pluto entering your 10th house. Pluto entering your 10th house means that you're finding not only your power, but also your motivation and your purpose in your career. Pluto is going to be in your 10th house for about 20 years. So this is really a long-term transit for you. So there's no need to figure everything out around the 20th or the 21st. However, it might give you some inklings of how you could potentially find this purpose or the potential ways that you could go in order to find this purpose. Notice if there's anything happening between March and June of 2023. Those might be the themes that will also be happening with Pluto in your 10th house from January 20th onwards. On January 23rd, Venus will enter Capricorn and your 9th house. So from the 23rd onwards, there's a little bit less of the energy of getting intimate and naked with somebody and honest with somebody, and more zooming out, expanding your horizons, going traveling, learning, and expanding your belief system in that way. Because we have Mars in your 9th house, which we talked about already, you have been approaching this area with a lot of determination, a lot of assertiveness. And now because Venus is joining that house as well, your efforts might mellow out a little bit. And you won't only be focused on your fighter spirit, making sure you fight for your belief systems, you fight to travel and to learn, but also that you are enjoying it while you're doing it. On the 25th of January, there's a full moon in Aquarius in your 10th house. The moon is in the 4th and the sun is in the 10th. Pluto is still within 4 degrees of the sun. So I would say that it is still a conjunction with Pluto and it does still have some of the same energies. The sextile between Saturn and Jupiter is also still happening during this full moon. With Saturn in your 11th house, it might have been a little bit more difficult lately to connect to your goals and to connect to your network of friends and colleagues, perhaps your peers. It might feel like that part of your area is not gelling so easily. But at the same time, with Jupiter in your 1st house, you've also been really learning lately who you are and how you want to show up in the world. So it's an interesting story that you've been living out in the last little while. Notice if there are any ways you can share all of these new findings about yourself and your identity with that network and see if that could help ease things up a little bit. Overall, you are learning to find your power in your career. So really keep that in the back of your mind as your goal and sort of your North Star for the next 20 years. January 28th is also quite a big day. That's because we have a couple of transits. First of all, Mars is squaring the North and South node. Secondly, Uranus is going direct. And third, we have the same aspect we had earlier in the month with Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter, but now we have it with Venus, Saturn, and Jupiter. With Mars squaring the nodes in your 12th and 6th house, I want to remind you to keep doing the scary things. Sometimes the things that scare us or the things that feel not so comfortable are actually the ones that help get us out of our comfort zone and help us grow and become a better person. And because Venus, Saturn, and Jupiter are pretty much in the same position as January 11th, except that time it was with Mars, reflect back on what happened around January 11th, and you might find the same themes coming back up again. But this time, because it's with Venus, there might be a little bit more softer. Finally, we close off the month on the 30th of January with Mars trining Uranus in your first house. Because you're learning so much about who you are and about your identity in the world, how you want to show up, it might mean that you need to start asserting yourself with those around you, that you really need to set boundaries about your own belief systems and your own lifestyle. So, Taurus, January is a month with a focus on learning, perhaps traveling, really finding a group of friends, colleagues, peers that actually care about your long-term future, and also stepping into this new part of yourself that you're just learning and discovering. Don't be afraid to share that new identity and new you with the rest of the world. Have a wonderful January, Taurus. I hope you enjoyed this horoscope, and I wanted to let you know that I do these horoscopes every month. So if you want to make sure you catch the one for February, then make sure you subscribe. I hope to see you again soon.